Racquetball is a racket sport played with a hollow rubber ball in an indoor or outdoor court. Joseph Sobek is credited with inventing the modern sport of racquetball in 1950, adding a stringed racket to paddleball in order to increase velocity and control. Unlike most racket sports, such as tennis and badminton, there is no net to hit the ball over, and, unlike squash, no tin to hit the ball above. Also, the court's walls, floor, and ceiling illegal playing surfaces with the exception of court-specific designated hinders being out of bounds. Racquetball is very similar to 40x20 American handball, which is played in many countries. It is also very similar to the British sport racquetball. History. Joe Sobek is credited with inventing the sport of racquetball in the New Britain, Connecticut, YMCA, though not with naming it. A professional tennis and American handball player, Sobek sought a fast-paced sport that was easy to learn and play. He designed the first strung paddle, devised a set of rules based on those of squash, handball, and paddleball, and named his game paddle rackets. In February 1952, Sobek founded the National Paddle Rackets Association, codified the rules, and had them printed as a booklet. The new sport was rapidly adopted and became popular through Sobek's continual promotion of it. He was aided by the existence of some 40,000 handball courts in the country's YMCAs and Jewish community centers, wherein racquetball could be played. In 1969, aided by Robert W. Kendler, the president-founder of the U.S. Handball Association, the International Racquetball Association was founded using the name coined by Bob McInerney, a professional tennis player. That same year, the IRA assumed the national championship from the NPRA. In 1973, after a dispute with the IRA board of directors, Kendler formed two other racquetball organizations. Yet the IRA remains the sport's dominant organization, recognized by the United States Olympic Committee as the American National Racquetball governing body. In 1974, the IRA organized the first professional tournament, and is a founding member of the International Racquetball Federation. Eventually, the IRA became the American Amateur Racquetball Association. In late 1995, it renamed itself as the United States Racquetball Association. In 2003, the USRA again renamed itself to USA Racquetball to mirror other Olympic sports associations. Even if racquetball is not an Olympic sport, Kendler used his publication ACE to promote both handball and racquetball, starting in the 1970s, and aided by the fitness boom of the decade. The sport's popularity increased to an estimated 3.1 million players by 1974. Consequent to increased demand, racquetball clubs and courts were founded and built, and sporting goods manufacturers began producing racquetball-specific equipment. This growth continued until the early 1980s, and declining in the decade's latter part when racket clubs converted to physical fitness clubs, in service to a wider clientele, adding aerobics exercise classes and physical fitness and bodybuilding machines. Since then, the number of racquetball players has remained steady, an estimated 5.6 million players. United Kingdom. In 1976, E&W Wright created the sport of racquetball based on US racquetball. British racquetball is played in a 32-foot long by 21-foot wide squash court, shorter and 1 foot wider than the US racquetball court, using a smaller, less dynamic ball than the American racquetball. In racquetball, the ceiling is out of bounds. The racquetball is served after a bounce on the floor, then struck into play with the racket. Scoring is like squash with point-to-rally scoring of up to 11 points. The British Racquetball Association was formed on the 13th of February 1984. and confirmed by the English Sports Council as the sport's governing body on 30 October 1984. The first National Racquetball Championship was held in London on 1 December 1984. The sport is now played in countries where squash is played: Australia, Bermuda, France, Germany, Malaysia, the Netherlands, New Zealand, South Africa, Argentina, Ireland and Sweden. Currently, racquetball also is played in parts of North America. In 1988, the British Racquetball Association merged with the Squash Rackets Association. England Squash and Racquetball is now recognised by Sport England as the English national governing body for the sports of squash and racquetball. There is now an established UK racquetball tournament series consisting of 8 events around the UK, which forms the basis of the national rankings along with the National Racquetball Championships held annually at the Edgbaston Priory Club. Governing bodies: the International Racquetball Federation governs the World Racquetball Championships, which were first held in 1981 in conjunction with the First World Games. The Second World Championships were played in 1984, and since then have been held biennially in August. Players from the United States have won the most World Championship titles. The IRF also runs the World Junior Racquetball Championships that occur annually in either late October or early to mid-November, as well as the annual World Senior Racquetball Championships for players who are 35 years of age or older. Racquetball has been included in the World Games on 5 occasions: 1981, 1989, 1993, 2009 and 2013. Racquetball has been included in the Pan American Games in 1995, 1999, 2003, 2011 and 2015. Lima will host the 2019 Pan American Games, and racquetball is on the program. There are 3 professional racquetball organizations. The International Racquetball Tour is the men's professional organization that began in the 1980s, with the World Racquetball Tour starting more recently. The Ladies Professional Racquetball Tour is the women's professional organization. Equipment: this court and equipment are required for playing racquetball. A racquetball court, fully enclosed indoor or outdoor with a front wall. The standard racquetball court is rectangular, 40 feet long, 20 feet wide, and 20 feet high with red lines defining the service and serve reception areas. The service box is formed by the short line and the service line. Within the service box there are 2 sets of lines perpendicular to the short and service lines. One set of lines is 18 inches from and parallel to the side walls, along with a short line, service line, and side wall. These lines define the doubles box, where the non-serving doubles partner stands during the serve. 36 inches from the side wall is another set of lines which, along with the short line and the service line, define an area that the server must not enter if he wishes to hit a drive serve between himself and the nearest side wall. The receiving line is a parallel dashed line 5 feet behind the short line. Other equipment needed: a racquetball, a dynamic rubber ball of 2.25 in diameter, a racquetball racket no longer than 22 inches, racquetball eye guards. Racquetball differs from other racket sports as most competitive players wear a glove on the racket hand for the purpose of getting a better grip on the racket, but gloves are optional equipment. Also, players usually wear a comfortable short-sleeved shirt and shorts, as well as racquetball court shoes designed for enabling quick lateral as well as forward and backward movement. Ball colors. Racquetballs are manufactured in a variety of colors such as blue, green, purple, black, red, and pink, and some are for specific purposes, but the differences are unlikely to make much difference for recreational play. Beginners are recommended to use a blue ball by en.Wikipedia or Wilson. The blue ball is the most commonly used and it is the most neutral ball for average speed and accuracy of contact. Green balls are similar to blue balls. In the USA, the main choices of ball are blue and green for tournament play. In some cases, the International Pro Racquetball Tour will use a purple pen HD ball as the official ball. A black ball is often used in tournaments for senior players because the ball is designed to be slower moving and allows for longer rallies. The red ball is the fastest in production, and they are known as red echelon fireballs. This ball is heavier and allows for a quicker pace. Balls to break occasionally and will lose the bounce over time even without breaking. To keep balls around for a long time, it is best to keep them in a room temperature setting and keep them out of extreme cold or heat, because this will cause the balls to become less effective and lose the bounce. Rules. Play begins with the serve. The serving player must bounce the ball on the floor once and hit it directly to the front wall, making the ball hit the floor beyond the short line, otherwise the serve counts as a fault. The ball may touch one side wall, but not two, prior to hitting the floor. Hitting both side walls after the front wall is a three-wall serve, and a fault. Also, serving the ball into the front wall so that it rebounds to the back wall without hitting the floor first is a long serve and a fault. Other fault serves include ceiling serve, in which the ball touches the ceiling after the front wall, and serving before the receiving player is ready. Also, the server must wait until the ball passes the short line before stepping out of the service box, otherwise it is a fault serve. If the server hits the ball directly to any surface other than the front wall, the server immediately loses serve regardless of whether it was first or second serve. After the ball bounces behind the short line or passes the receiving line, the ball is in play and the opposing player may play it. Usually, the server is allowed two opportunities to put the ball into play, although elite-level competitions often allow the server only one opportunity. After a successful serve, players alternate hitting the ball against the front wall. The player returning the hit may allow the ball to bounce once on the floor or hit the ball on the fly. However, once the player returning the shot has hit the ball, it must strike the front wall before striking the floor. Unlike during the serve, a ball in play may touch as many walls, including the ceiling, is necessarily so long as it reaches the front wall without striking the floor. Scoring. If the server wins the rally, then the server scores 1 point and continues to serve. If the opposing player wins the rally, then no point is scored, but takes over serving. Under USA racquetball rules, matches are best of 3 games, with the first 2 games to 15 points and a third game to 11 points, if necessary. USA racquetball rules do not require players to win by 2, so a match scoreline could read 15 to 14, 14-15, 11 to 10. Racquetball Canada matches are also the best of 3 format, but require a winning margin of at least 2 points. International competitions run by the International Racquetball Federation are like the USA racquetball scoring system: 2 games to 15 with a tiebreaker to 11, if necessary, and win by 1. However, the men's and women's pro tours play matches that are the best of 5 games to 11 points, requiring a 2-point margin for victory. Hinders. Due to the nature of the game, players often occupy the space their opponent wants to occupy. This may result in a player blocking his opponent's ability to play the ball. Such occurrences are termed either hinders or penalty hinders. A hinder is a replay of the current rally, while a penalty hinder results in the player who caused the avoidable obstruction to lose the rally. A type of hinder is a screen in which the player is unable to see the ball prior to it passing the opponent. The difference between a hinder and a penalty hinder is that in the latter case a player has missed out on a clear opportunity to make a rally-winning shot due to the obstruction by the player's opponent, while in the former case the opportunity missed would not clearly have led to a winning shot. This difference is almost always a judgment call by the referee. There is also a court hinder in which some part of the playing field caused the ball to bounce untrue. Often this is the door frame, a handle, or a flaw in the floor or walls. In this case, the rally is a reserve. Game variations. Racquetball games can be played with 2, 3 or 4 players, with doubles or singles matches being most common. 2-player games are called singles or one-up, while 4-player games are doubles with 2 pairs playing against each other. Tournament competitions have divisions for singles or doubles or both. 3-player games are most commonly called cutthroat and sometimes Ironman, where each player takes turns serving to the other 2, who play as a team against the serving player. Another 3-player game is California in and out, or King of the Court, where play is 1 versus 1 with the 3rd player remaining in the back court out of play while the other 2 play a rally. The rally winner then serves to the player who was sitting out, and the rally loser stays out of play. Another 3-player variation is sevens, in which 1 player plays against 2 players as a team, with the game being played to 7 points. If the 2-player team gets to 7 first, the game is over. But if the solo player gets to 7 first, then the game continues to 14. If the solo player again reaches 14 first, then the game continues to 21, where the game ends regardless of whether the solo player of the 2-player team reached 21 first. Shots of the game. Service serve style varies drastically from player to player. Generally, they are divided into 2 types, offensive and defensive. Most players use an offensive serve from the first serve, and a defensive serve if they need to hit a second serve. Of the offensive serves, the most common is the drive. The intention with this serve is for the ball to travel low and fast towards either back corner, and to bounce twice before striking either side wall of the back wall. If the opponent is adjusting to the drive serve, the server will throw in any variety of jam serves. A jam serve is an offensive serve which attempts to catch the opponent off balance by making use of difficult angles and unfrequented play space. The most common jam serve is the Z serve, which strikes the front wall close to a side wall. The ball bounces quickly off the side wall, then strikes the floor and then the opposite side wall about 30 to 35 feet back. Depending upon the spin the server gives the Z serve, the resulting carom may prove unpredictable and difficult to return. Side spin may cause the ball to bounce parallel to the back wall. A pinch serve is similar to a drive serve, however, the ball strikes a side wall very low and close to the serving box. With the appropriate spin, the ball has little bounce, and is difficult to return. It is possible that a successful serve would strike the side wall before the short line, and land on the floor after the short line. If the player faults on the first serve, they will usually hit a defensive serve. Defensive serves do not usually garner aces, but they are designed to generate a weak return by the opponent, thereby setting up the server to win the point. Most defensive serves are any variety of lob serves. A plain lob serve is a ball hit with a long, high arch into either back corner. The goal is to hit the ball so that it lands as close as possible to the back wall, giving the opponent very little room to hit a solid return. A junk lob takes a shallower arch and lands close to the side wall somewhere between the dotted line and the back wall. This lob is intended to deceive the opponent into thinking he has an easy kill. However, since the ball is in the deep zone, it will more likely set up the server for an offensive shot. Offensive shots, straight-in shots, are usually meant to hit the front wall as low as possible. If the ball contacts the front wall so low as to bounce twice before it reaches the service line, it is called a kill shot. Straight-in shots are normally attempted with the idea of hitting toward the area of the court the opponent cannot cover. Straight-in shots hit where the opponent can't return them are called down the line and cross-court passing shots. Often kill shots are returned very close to the back wall as the ball is moving towards the front wall. Pinches and splats are shots that strike the side wall before the front wall. This often makes the ball bounce twice quickly to end the rally. Pinches normally strike the side wall towards the front part of the court, often within a few inches from the front wall. The splat shot is an elongated pinch that strikes the side wall towards the back part of the court. It often makes a distinctive splatting sound. A very disorienting shot named the Ray J Splat, after Ray Johnson, a Wyoming state champion, who consistently used this shot by smashing the ball into the side wall at such an angle that it would Z into the opposite front wall, arriving with such minimum momentum that it would die at the front wall and not rebound as expected. The best defense is to listen for the splat and anticipate the ball action. The advantage to a splat shot beyond an unpredictable angle is that it creates a longer distance to travel forward for the opponent, who is held between a tension of going forward and staying back because of velocity of passing shots. Pinches are classified as frontside or reverse. A right-handed player shooting a forehand shot to the right front corner is shooting a frontside pinch. A right-handed player shooting to the left front corner is a reverse pinch. A right-handed player shoots a backhand frontside pinch to the left corner and a reverse double pinch to the right corner. Everything for a left-handed player would be the opposite. The dink is another very effective offensive shot designed to end the point. It is a shot very low to the front wall, hit very softly so as to bounce twice before the opponent can get to it. Dink's the most effective when the opponent is positioned deep in the court. Another important shot type is the Z shot. This shot is effective at confusing and tiring out your opponent. To hit a Z shot, one hits the side wall hard and up high, causing the ball to hit the front, then the other side wall, then back to the original side wall. If done correctly, the path of the ball will be Z-shaped. This shot can have confusing bounces which can frustrate opponents. If done correctly, a Z shot will apply spin to the ball as well on the final bounce, causing it to rebound perpendicular to the second wall and fall parallel to the back wall. The closer the better. This makes the Z shot very difficult to return. An interesting and surprise attack shot is the CB pinch, named after Charlie Barham, a Colorado state champion who is credited with this unique style. The CB pinch occurs where the player responds to a ceiling shot quickly in front of the service line and right after the floor bounce. The shot is basically a redirected floor bounce, where the ball is directed very softly but quickly to either corner from a position in front of the service line. The fact that the shot is taken right after a ceiling shot floor bounce usually leaves the opponent in the rear of the court defenseless against the CB pinch, when the player has suddenly rushed forward to take the shot. Defensive shots. Defensive shots are defined as shots which are not returned low to the front wall. The ceiling ball shot is the primary defensive shot. This is a shot that strikes the ceiling at or near the front wall. The ball will bounce once in the forecourt and should then travel in a high arc to arrive as close to, and as vertical to, the back wall as possible. Often this is aimed at the corner, which would require a backhand return by the opponent. This makes it difficult for the opponent to return the ball as he cannot make a full arc of the racket. However, if the ball comes down too long or too short of the back wall, this can allow the opponent a kill shot. Another defensive shot is the high Z, used when the defensive player is near the front wall. The high Z is hit 10 feet high or higher into the front wall near a corner. The ball then bounces from the side wall all the way to the opposite side wall, usually traveling over the top of the opponent, hitting the opposite side wall with spin. The spin will cause the ball to leave the opposite wall almost perpendicular to it. This may confuse inexperienced opponents, but importantly, if very close to and parallel to the rear wall, makes for a difficult return shot. The around the world or three-wall defensive shot is hit like a pinch shot but high on the wall toward the ceiling. It travels around the court in a high trajectory and is an alternative to hitting a ceiling ball. Two other defensive shots are used but are less effective. If the defensive player is in the backcourt but unable to position himself for a non-defensive shot, he may need to hit the ball off of the back wall. The ball often returns without much force and is easily returned. The round-the-world shot is hit high into the side wall first, so the ball then hits the front wall and then the other side wall, effectively circling the court. It can be easily cut off and is rarely used anymore. Strategy. The primary strategy of racquetball is to command the center of the court just behind the dashed receiving line. This allows the player to move as quickly as possible to all areas of the court and limit open court areas which are difficult to defend. After a shot, return quickly to center court. The antithesis of this is to be against a wall, which severely limits the player's movement and allows the opponent an open court. Keep an eye on the opponent by glancing sideways to anticipate the return shot and move appropriately in the court. Learn the typical return shots of the opponent and move appropriately in the court for a return shot. Attempt to not be predictable with your return shots. Other more obvious strategies are to keep the returned ball as low on the front wall as possible, keeping the ball moving fast, and to keep your opponent moving away from center court by the use of lobs, cross-court shots, and dinks.